All right, guys, I'm back again. Um, so yeah, I do this thing here. I don't really claim to be like a news reporter or anything like that. So don't expect me to punch in and be on time and have the fucking breaking news and shit. I try to keep up with these stories. For a minute, there was a lot of them, and then boom, it started to slow down, and election season's over. We had like 8 out of 9 ballot initiatives made, passed, and marijuana was legalized from coast to coast. That was in November, and now we're stretching on into fucking August kind of territory, July, August. We're halfway over the hump of 2017, and it looks like no other legalization is going to happen this year, and maybe not even next year. Well, there's elections next November, but even if something happens like, like for example, Michigan, my legalized could get on the ballot, and we could vote for that in 2018, and it could pass. But the regulations in that's outlined probably wouldn't kick in until 2019. And if the minions that control things now were still in control and had some kind of say in it, might not see any real recreational marijuana for a couple more years. Some states got their shit going a little bit better than others, but we'll see. But as a whole, the country still has decriminalization, legalization, medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, all these different laws. The country is not united in that regard. The federal government is still stuck in the 1930s. So that's where we're at in the good old USA. Meanwhile, the United Nations and the World Health Organization are calling for drugs to be decriminalized. Members, but this little catchphrase under it, but member states still want narcotics to be illegal. That kind of defeats the whole purpose of what they're saying, man. The United Nations and World Health Organizations have issued a call for drugs to be decriminalized. Don't get excited, everybody. It's not very much of a declaration coming from them guys. Buried in a joint release on ending healthcare discrimination, the organizations called for the reviewing and repealing punitive laws that have been proven to have negative health outcomes by member states. Among a number of measures, this includes drug use or possession of drugs for personal use. While WHO has previously called for drugs to be decriminalized, in the context of HIV reduction, the United Nations has limited its calls to health and evidence-based solutions to drug abuse. The United Nations, in case anybody doesn't know, is why we have prohibition. It's why there's a scheduling system, because the United Nations has treaties that the United States has signed on to. One of them was in 1963, and the other one was in 1972 or something, maybe 78. I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked at those, but yeah. So thanks to the United Nations, the whole world has similar prohibition than what America has. Like the scheduling might be worded differently or whatever, but it's still essentially the same thing. Quote, I know from personal experience how an approach based on prevention and treatment can yield positive results. That was Mr. Gutierrez, Prime Minister of Portugal. The country launched its landmark drug decriminalization program, which also introduced greater resources for drug prevention and treatment projects. Portugal saw its drug fatalities fall to one of the lowest in Europe and also reduce the prevalence of HIV among injectors. All right, so this is a watered-down summary of what happened with 14 years of decriminalization that has occurred in Portugal. And not only is there decriminalization, but there's also state-sponsored drug programs. And basically just a whole different approach to what they're doing, what to do about the drug situation, instead of immediately calling it a drug problem. Calling it a drug problem assumes that everybody that touches drugs gets addicted, has problems, or whatever, Anyway, so the illegal drug trade is a complex international issue. Executive Director of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Yuri Fedotov, used his statement for the day to highlight the challenges posed by narcotics. Quote, the nexus between drugs, crime, and terrorism reveals a shifting pattern of relationships. Quote, as the new threats appear, including spreading methamphetamine and new psychoactive substances, old ones continue to thrive. Business models are evolving too, with cybercrime and the darknet increasingly playing a role. Hey, dipshit, maybe you didn't hear the first guy. He said, decriminalize all drugs. And then you go on to hear these members get up there, one member after another. Oh, yeah, we have a drug problem. We have an opioid crisis. We have this, we have that. It's the meth, it's the heroin. But what happens is essentially nothing really ever gets done about it. All those things have created a black market around them, and, that's where we're at. Until the whole world admits that you're not going to get rid of drugs with this fucking ignorant drug war. Package it up and commercial it. That's what they did with alcohol. Drugs are no different than alcohol, guys. In fact, mostly they're not even as potent or deadly or intoxicating. It's amazing how that works. But in the United Nations and the World Health Organization, they might have this rhetoric on a Monday, but on a Wednesday, they might be right back to, we need hard enforcement. And it's like the mixed message doesn't make sense, It makes it seem like we're not actually gripped and we haven't actually hit rock bottom yet, So whatever. Meanwhile, around the world, we'll get back to world news. I heard that in, I think, Puerto Rico, the president signed a medical marijuana thing into law. Before, they just had, it might even have been the previous president, but signed some kind of a thing saying, hey, we're not going to arrest anybody if medical marijuana is what they're doing with marijuana or whatever, and doctors are not going to get in trouble if they recommend it and all this stuff. Now they have formal laws. So that's just another story I didn't really get around to. But Greece, meanwhile, legalized medical marijuana. The number of European countries with legal medical marijuana has increased again with the recent addition of Greece. This once ancient society showed its progressive outlook last week by making medical cannabis available to its citizens in need. I mean, what are they doing? Giving it away? That's pretty cool. At a press conference, Prime Minister Alex Spiros said that doctors will soon be able to prescribe the medicine, quote, from now on, the country is turning its page, as Greece is now included in countries where the delivery of medical cannabis to patients in need is legal. With the historic move, Greece joins Germany, Finland, and the Czech Republic, the Netherlands, Portugal, and Spain in allowing one of the world's oldest medicines for people in need. Details on distribution methods and how patients will access the medicine have yet to be divulged. As well, cannabis will be rescheduled in Greece from Table A drug, meaning one with no medical value, to Table B, which has approved medical use. Sound familiar? Only in America, there's way more wording and legal wrangle-tangle. So, I don't know. Anyway, Greece will also be able to import cannabis-based medicines from countries like Canada, the world's major marijuana heavyweight. Thanks, America, for not being that. It'd be so easy to do. Greece has had a strict prohibition on cannabis since 1890. The recent landmark decision is a further indication that pot reform is at the forefront of international awareness. Well, thanks for the word pot there, Jonathan. yeah, sometimes I'll bounce down to the comment section. You know, you never know what you might find down there. 3/4 of Americans want Trump to respect state marijuana laws. Now, I believe that this is an increase from the last poll we've seen. So, is this sentiment increasing in the public sphere? Yes. The more people feel like, hey, I want medical marijuana, you know, for whatever reason. And a lot of it has to do with pain, and a lot of it has to do with people's decision that they would rather use medical marijuana for pain than opioids. And I just seen a study out. It wasn't a study, it was a poll that just came out today, I think. I mean, it didn't just come out today. It's Sunday, so it probably didn't just come out today. But since I was looking at Twitter today, that's when I seen it. And, yeah, it basically said that something like 90%, 91% of everybody that they asked, when asked, said, yeah, they'd rather have medical cannabis for pain. And I'm not sure I think this was a cell phone poll done in California, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know. Don't quote me on any of that. Just sounded good, and it fits this. 3/4 of America want Trump to respect marijuana laws. State marijuana laws. Majority of Americans want Trump administration to leave state marijuana laws alone. 76% of American adults want President Trump to leave state marijuana laws as they are, according to a new poll from Survey USA, reform group Marijuana Majority commissioned the poll. Currently, legal recreational marijuana has been approved in 8 states plus Washington, D.C., and a total of 29 other states, including the District of Columbia, have legalized medical marijuana in some form. The drug remains illegal on the federal level, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, has been vocal in his opposition to legalizing marijuana, once calling it only slightly less awful than heroin. Tell that to the slightly about one person every hour that's dying from fucking heroin and opioids. The Survey USA poll also found some Americans support consumption of marijuana by professional athletes, 46%, gun owners, 48%, journalists, 50%. Should the state they reside in have applicable laws, 3 groups that face various barriers to using the drug. Gun owners, there's a stipulation where if you fill out an application to buy a gun, you would be lying to say that you're not some kind of a druggie. And that's a medical marijuana patient. Professional athletes, well, we know what happens to them. As a matter of fact, I do believe that in the off-season so far, 4 NFL football players, all stars too, from what I understand, are going to be suspended next year. 2 of them for a whole year for smoking weed. Now, journalists, I don't know. What could really happen to the journalist, you know? They make you piss in a cup and you got to oh, no, you know, I got fired for pissing dirty for weed. Come on, it's a journalist, dude. All they got to do is go on TV and be like, these guys are trying to fire me for pissing dirty on weed. Certainly you guys with all your pot and whatnot, to you guys, weed's just one big joke, and half of you probably don't even smoke it anyway, so I don't even know what the problem is there. It ain't like just because someone found out that the journalist smoked weed that's some kind of an issue. We'd assume you should probably smoke weed. This was also a cell phone poll. 1,500 Americans conducted between June 19th and 20. Now, remember in April, a Quinnipiac poll found that 73% opposed government enforcement of federal laws against marijuana in states that have legalized for medical or recreational purposes. And don't forget that was the same poll that found 61% of America that's 3 out of 5 people are sorry, dude, prohibition of marijuana, the whole thing is garbage. So there you have it. Once again, Not that the government cares. I've talked about this before too. The studies have shown that the government don't give a shit about what the people want or what the people are talking about, or everybody wants single payer health care, for example. Everybody I know wants it. Can't have it though. Well, even Roger Stone, Trump's right-hand man. I don't know how much of a right-hand man he still is, but during the election, this was a guy who, in my understanding, kind of like was a pundit on the Alex Jones show, and then all of a sudden he became like a rising star because he was Trump's buddy, and I don't know, man. It's weird. Roger Stone, a close confidant to President Trump, is on a mission to convince Trump to legalize marijuana through a new lobbying group. Interesting. Stone, a longtime Trump ally, announced on Friday that he is forming the United States Cannabis Coalition, a new bipartisan organization that aims to get the Trump administration to recognize the medicinal value of cannabis. The organization is registered with the IRS as a Section 527 nonprofit. Business Insider reports, quote, "I'm going to be working with a coalition of Republicans and Democrats, progressives and liberals, libertarians and conservatives to persuade the president to keep his campaign pledge and remind the president that he took a strong and forthright position on this issue in the election," Stone said at the Cannabis World Congress and Business Expo. Didn't know he was such an enthusiast. While campaigning, Trump said he thinks legalizing marijuana should be a state issue, state by state. In 2016 appearance on Fox News, Trump said he was 100% in favor of medical marijuana. He even asked the crowd, he was like, "Hey, everybody wants medical marijuana, right?" And everybody in the crowd was like, "Yay!" The people behind him, you can tell, they were like, "What? Yeah, that's awesome," And that would just be such a letdown to start seeing, like, if Jeff Sessions got his way and just started cracking down, like went to some medical marijuana state and just started arresting dispensaries and patients and shit and loading them up in them big vans and driving them off to jail. Stone said Trump's promise to uphold states' rights to legalize marijuana gave the president a slight edge in winning the election. "It is our intention to identify, reach, and mobilize millions of pro-cannabis voters to urge the president to keep his word," Stone said. Well, it ain't like you guys are not going to vote for him if you don't. So come on. What do we have here? Well, I've been doing some clips about the opioid epidemic that's ravishing the country because really, frankly, no one else wants to talk about it. And even when I do a video, it seems like they're not really the most popular videos that I make. Like maybe no one wants to hear about it either. Everybody is dealing with it, though. Everybody that I know of has some stake in this shit. And, then there's all the people that are dead. And I know a lot of those, too. And it didn't just start with, the recent explosion of opioids and heroin and all that shit. But I'll tell you what, man, it totally has been, in my experience, a serious ramp up. In at least the last 5 years that I know of. Because, people are just literally dropping like flies in the last 2 years. People you never even suspected even did narcotics, especially. But the story is always the same. They always start out with opioid pills, some kind of Oxycontin or fentanyl. That's where people are starting now. Used to be you started on like Vicodin and hydrocodone and, Percocet, and then you worked your way up to Oxycontin maybe eventually, or if you dabbled with heroin, it was because you just snorted a little bit at some party, and then you were like, maybe not, I don't know. But, I'm not trying to discount the decades of people that have been fighting addiction and ran into heroin, and whatever happened after that is each individual story is their own. As it is with the current epidemic. People want to cast this off real cheaply as weak people that are terrible parents. A lot of the times you'll see these mom and dad both passed out in the car with the kids in the back seat, or passed out at the house and the kids go, like at this police station, the kids, went somewhere and said mom and dad's dead, and the cops had to come, and the paramedics came and they had some Narcan. Cops don't got Narcan in that town. We're talking about this town in Ohio where the sheriff openly brags about how his officers do not carry Narcan. That's pretty sick, because there is going to be, or probably already has been, situation or situations where these officers have encountered a person that was still breathing, maybe very slowly, but they were still breathing. It's like that scene on Breaking Bad where all you got to do is roll that chick over and she won't die. All you got to do is hit that person with some Narcan and they won't die. Let's look at this shit. This makes me want to cry sometimes, but whatever. Police departments across the country are equipping officers with Narcan, a drug that, while expensive, that's a whole nother story there, a whole nother clip, I guess. Why in the fuck is Narcan so expensive? You can make it in the lab. It ain't like you have to go get rare earth materials to come up with this shit. Anyway, while expensive can bring drug users back from the brink of death, reversing the effects of an opioid overdose. As the opioid epidemic has spread, Narcan has become increasingly present in police departments across the country. And that's why it's so expensive, is because it's tugging at everybody's heartstrings. But the people that make this shit is the same people that are killing everybody with these opioids. All right, but in Butler County, Ohio, the police can't use it. The sheriff of Butler County, Ohio, where more people die from overdoses than from any other cause, won't let his officers carry the drug. Let that shit sink in. I mean, we can say that about just about any mid-sized town now, that more people die from overdoses than any other accidental cause for sure. With this saying any other cause. Whoa. It's a lot of fucking people are dropping pretty hard then, man. All right, I don't do Narcan, the drug used to revive people who have overdosed. Sheriff Richard Jones told the Cincinnati Enquirer they never carried it. His officers have never carried it, nor will they. That's my stance. It's ridiculous. Jones thinks that carrying Narcan, the brand name version of naloxone, puts his deputies at risk. The people revived with the drug can sometimes become hostile towards police officers, he said. Come on, dude. No way, man. Well, people aren't known to become violent after being treated with Narcan. Seriously, dude. This cop is just a heartless asshole. There. That's what I think of you, Richard K. Jones, you Butler fucker. Quote, it's safe enough to be used by just about anybody, including family members and bystanders, said Fred Bauer, president of Pennsylvania Society of Addiction Medicine. Quote, I've never heard of any violence being used as a reason not to administer it. Quote, it's absurd to deny police, who are often first responders, the ability to save someone, Bauer added. 2016, a record 192 overdoses recorded in Butler County. Officers in neighboring counties do carry the drug. A city council person in Butler County recently came under fire for suggesting that emergency personnel should stop responding to calls from people with overdoses repeatedly. He said, 3 strikes and you're out, prompting the city manager to issue a statement emphasizing that they do respond to each call. Sheriff Jones is no stranger to the national spotlight. He stumped for Trump early in the campaign and has long been known for his harsh stance on immigration. He recently suggested using the mother of all bombs on Mexican cartels, and in 2014 sent a bill to the Mexican government for $900,000 for housing immigrants in his jail. Mexico didn't pay, and this guy, just like all the people that voted for him, eventually he's just going to die off. I mean, it sucks that we got to wait that long before cool shit can happen and we can have nice things. Look at, he just posted this 19 minutes ago. He's sticking to it. And he's going to keep talking about it, and he's going to keep acting like, he's right. What has he got? A New York Daily News story. He's happy about this. This gives him a big... This is like, like when you go to check your Facebook posts later on in the day to see if a bunch of people liked it. And if they did, it makes you feel good. And sometimes you want to go look and see who liked it. All that shit is called feeding your ego. And that's what the fuck this guy's doing, man. And of course, you're going to have people that are going to be sycophants to that. That's just disgusting. So, yeah, kill some more junkies, I guess, is the fucking message coming out of Butler. And here's the story here. 2 overdoses, no more EMSs. An Ohio town has been so overwhelmed by the drug overdose emergencies that councilman proposed a 3 strikes penalty so EMS would not respond to overdose victim who has required 2 previous interventions. It's sad that even happens these days. We should be really looking at the root of the problem and not this, we can't keep coming back here if you're having these overdoses. Now, come on, man. City Council member Dan Picard told the local Journal News that arresting those who overdose on heroin or other drug adds to the problem by straining the city budget, jail, and court system. John Smith obviously doesn't care much about his life, but he's expending a lot of resources, and we can't afford it. But you sure can make room for people with marijuana charges. What the fuck? Why? That should be your responsibility to house people that are having these problems, but it shouldn't be a fucking jail. Why don't we treat this shit like a real situation that it is? These people need help. They don't need your fucking attitude and your jail cells. And they certainly don't need to call 911 and then you guys not come because you're an asshole. But, you would be held liable. You could be held liable in a wrongful death suit just for that, just for saying this shit. And you're a city council member, man. You're talking about the people you fucking represent. Like them or not, like their habits or not, you represent them. You should be trying to figure out how to help them, not how to fucking hurt them more. Well, anyway, when we are called to render aid, we generally have to treat whatever condition we encounter. And the state's Good Samaritan law, designed to encourage people to report overdoses, prohibits police from arresting people on site for the heroin-related activity. For good reason. They wouldn't fucking call emergency services if there was some kind of a fear that they might get arrested. So Narcan should be so cheap that everybody has it, especially people that actually know somebody that's on heroin. If they go to buy some of that naloxone and they're like, oh yeah, that's fucking $350 a dose or $1,000 a dose or whatever the fucking number they want to put on it. That's how it works, right? You didn't notice that the government's all fucking corrupt by big pharma and health insurance companies? You'll pay whatever they tell you to pay. Of course, you got people talking about how, it's all the junkies and the drug dealers' faults. That's the next line. Man, you guys, you realize that you can't handle this problem with a hammer. You can't do it. You can't just hammer at this problem like it's some kind of fucking, like it's just a dent that you're going to pound back into some kind of semblance of right. This is a deep, intricate problem, and yelling down at drug addicts like they're, little kids that need to go take a time out or some shit, you're fucking killing people. And then you got your sheriff who's like, well, we're not even going to let our officers carry this shit. Fuck it. Literally showing up when people are alive on the scene and letting them die while they're standing there. That's how fucking sick this Ohio town is. They're not just sick because of the heroin, and they're not just sick because of the opioid pills and the fentanyl, and now the car fentanyl. Yes, I do have articles. I didn't post them on this today, but yes, fentanyl apparently ain't strong enough for the junkies. They want something with a little more kick, or they want a little bit more of a chance that they're going to die when they do the drug. Because let's face it, man, this is one of the most hopeless epidemics this country has ever faced. You know, I mean, more people are dying from opioids right now than at the height peak of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. And now carfentanil is showing up and is confirmed to be on the streets on a regular basis in Ohio. Where does this shit even come from, man? From what I understand, it's not that hard to make in the lab. So if you thought meth labs were a thing, I guess this is going to be the new thing to blow up. And I'm not giving police and city council that act like these guys, I'm not giving much confidence in this country's ability to handle this problem. You got fucking Chris Christie and Pam fucking Bondi on some drug commission that's supposed to figure out what's going on with the opioid epidemic. They dropped the fucking ball, man. They don't know what they're doing. Are you kidding? Look at Bondi. She shut down the pill mills in Florida, and then boom, the heroin deaths spiked higher than the opioid deaths were at. You know, maybe I guess you could take the lesser of two evils, since that's what you guys tell us to do all the time. Take the lesser of two evils. Just let them have their opioids. Give them the pill mills back so the heroin deaths will go back down. You know, this is fucking ridiculous. You know, how you can get rid of this problem, or at least get a grip on it, is regulate the fucking manufacturers of the pills, the opioids, the fentanyl. I don't know what you're going to do about the heroin. We're over in Afghanistan guarding the crops and helping the Taliban ship it around the fucking world. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not going to go anywhere. But as far as those pills that everybody's hooked on, A, stop prescribing them to everybody in the fucking universe for anything that they want it for. B, medical marijuana is way better for pain anyway in the long run, especially chronic pain that lasts for more than, you stub your toe, it's only going to be painful for like a day. You get a tooth pulled, a week or so, You don't get addicted to fucking heroin because you had to do a week's worth of Percocet after you got a tooth pulled. It doesn't work like that. But the way it does work is that is the gateway, though. So the gateway is not marijuana. The gateway marijuana is not causing people to die from heroin on a catastrophic level, or every 40, I think it was like every 27 seconds or some crazy number, there's a baby born addicted to opioids. I mean, this is just the most insane thing going on ever. And no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to watch videos about it, so we'll stop talking about it. But I'll tell you what, the way it's being handled is shit. And obviously there's still stuck in the fucking Stone Age about marijuana. I hate the word marijuana, but I can't just replace it because they've made marijuana the word that is this shit right here. Flowers that you roll into a paper or put into a pipe and smoke it. I use specific terms. This is marijuana. Hash is the shit that like you concentrate this, and there's different kinds of that. There's like wax and shatter and shit. But when it comes down to it, this is their enemy, marijuana. That's the one that they hate the most because it's the one that you can just go walking right up to a fucking plant that grows like a weed and just pick it right off it, and you have something. You have a commodity. And furthermore, you have medicine that is better than anything they got. And it's readily available as soon as you pick it right off the plant. You can eat it, and it's medicinal. dry it out, heat it up, smoke it, and it gets you high, whatever that, and it's not an intoxicating high, but it gets you high, and they hate that. For some reason, the high from marijuana is what they hate the fucking most. And it's because it makes you think. It makes you question their whole everything. If you don't question everything, and then you smoke marijuana, and you still don't question everything, then the government has nothing to worry about. But they like the highs that make you uninvolved, uninvested, uninspired. Sit in the corner with your eyes lit up, dazzled at what you're seeing or doing, or dancing around mindlessly, or just straight up flat out wasted, you know. That's the kind of drugs that they approve and they like. I know insurance doesn't pay for medical marijuana. Oh, wait, maybe it does. Okay, judge, insurance company must pay for medical marijuana for injured New Jersey worker. What could be a precedent-setting decision? A New Jersey administrative law judge has ordered an insurance company to pay for medical marijuana for an injured worker who suffers from lingering neuropathic pain in his left hand and after an accident while using a power saw at an 84 lumber outlet in 2008. Judge Ingrid French took testimony from the worker, a 39-year-old Egg Harbor Township man, and a Cherry Hill psychiatrist neurologist who said the marijuana treatment was appropriate because it would allow the patient to reduce his prescription opiate use and lower the risk of serious side effects. Andrew Watson was seeking reimbursement for marijuana he had purchased at a dispensary at his Atlantic County Township over 3 months in 2014 after enrolling in the state's program. He also sought a ruling that would allow him to be covered for the treatment in the future. Aha! French issued her opinion last month, saying the evidence presented in these proceedings show that the petitioner's trial use of medicinal marijuana has been successful. While the court is sensitive to the controversy surrounding this, the medicinal use of marijuana, whether or not it should be prescribed for a patient in a state where it is legal to prescribe it as a medical decision that is within the boundaries of the laws in the state. Basically saying, yo, I'm not a doctor, but it looks like that shit worked, so hey, pay. The opinion did not state the reimbursement owed to Watson, although his attorney said the marijuana itself cost less than $1,000 because it was only 3 ounces. John Gurney, a Mount Laurel lawyer who writes a weekly blog on workers' compensation cases, says the written ruling may be the first in New Jersey to address whether an insurer should pay for marijuana. Quote, it's not binding, but it's really an important decision. Gurney, the Cape Heart Scatcherd firm, said the only other court ruling he had heard involving medical marijuana and workers' compensation came when a New Mexico appeals court decided a few years ago that an injured worker was entitled to marijuana treatment. In that case, the court ruled the marijuana was reasonable and necessary for an injured worker who had reported that traditional treatments had not alleviated his pain. John Carvelli, a Mount Laurel lawyer who represented Gallagher Bassett Services, a third-party administrator for 84 Lumber's insurance company, said in an email Thursday, with respect to the recent decision, we respect the court's decision. At this juncture, there is no plan to appeal. So basically, it sounds like all systems go on this back pay for the previous 3 ounces, and if he needs to go get some more, it's covered. That's pretty fucking dope. Gallagher Bassett had argued that Watson's ailment did not qualify for medical marijuana under the state program and that Watson had received a recommendation to use marijuana from a doctor who was not his treating physician. Oh, here we go with stipulations. French, however, found that Watson's ailment, intractable neuropathic pain, falls under the list of qualifying conditions and that the prescribing doctor was a partner of the treating physician and eligible to assess Watson's condition. So I guess it was kind of like they thought they had something there, and then when they got shot down, they kind of was like, okay, I guess Philip Facenda, a Cherry Hill lawyer who represented Watson, said the decision might benefit insurance companies too. Quote, "We believe this will offer very powerful cost savings with respect to the entire workers' compensation industry in New Jersey. More costly pharmaceuticals can be reduced and medical marijuana would be a less expensive treatment." Whatever. Facenda said that his client stopped using marijuana in 2014 because he could not afford to continue paying for it. The insurer carrier continued to pay for his use of opiates to treat the pain. The decision means Watson can resume using marijuana, he said. Now, you see, that happens time and time again for so many reasons. You know, like if people had the choice between opioids and marijuana, they would go for the marijuana. But because of their job or whatever, you know, a situation like this, it's like they don't even give you, it's not a choice anymore. They're like, well, if we catch you smoking marijuana, we won't even give you the pills. It's fucking crazy. He testified that the effect of marijuana in many ways is not as debilitating as the effect of the Percocet, which is how he refers to his prescription for Endocet or oxycodone. Ultimately, the petitioner was able to reduce his use of oral narcotic medication. The court found that the petitioner's approach to his pain management needs has been cautious, mature, and overall he is exceptionally conscientious in managing his pain. Sounds pretty awesome, but don't expect to go to your insurance company anytime soon and say, yo, you need to cover my medical marijuana expenses, bitch. Because it's not going to happen. Especially if you're on one of those cheapy Obamacare providers. I mean, come on, man. These guys don't even... you could be paying, like, good money for insurance. And you still got to pay shitloads of money when you get a prescription for fucking Percocet. So give me a break. All right, come on. All right, we'll watch this clip real quick, and then I'm going to take a break. As I said from day one, the Florida ballot initiative second go around churned constitutional amendment passed this time, and it's a whole ton of garbage, and it gave the responsibility of actually hammering out details of the law to the legislator, which is a fucking right-wing, like, insane Tea Party ass crazy bunch of people who are in the tank for Big Pharma and the health insurance agency or health insurance corporations. Of course, duh, it's Florida. So the guy that basically got this whole ball rolling, not too smart if you ask me, but John Morgan. I think this guy has a little, I've heard he has aspirations of running for governor, maybe, I don't know, who cares? Let's see what he's got to say here.
Suing the state over... medical marijuana took their fight to Tallahassee, suing the state over a new law that bans patients from smoking.
The people of Florida knew exactly what they were voting on when they voted. And when they were voting on it, the vast majority, if not 100%, knew that smoke was included.
Orlando attorney John Morgan, who could run for governor, accused lawmakers of redefining the medical marijuana that voters approved last fall.
It's a smokable product. It's been that way, for hundreds of years, thousands of years, at least in America since the 60s, it's been smoked.
Bruce Grossman of Maitland says he's a cancer survivor who
to say to his point, yeah, thousands of years, we know it has been smoked.
Needs the drug to deal with pain.
It's the most common
right
way
now,
it's
he's using
used.
other products, including vape.
It's important to me because there's other people that are suffering worse than me.
Opponents say there's no way to measure the dosage with smoking.
Who cares?
Morgan fired back, saying smoking
not
works
dangerous.
best for some illnesses.
This is not about a healthy person buying marijuana and smoking it.
It's unlikely
Right.
the
Now, let's
legislature
not
would have to
forget,
return to session if a court were to
Florida
strike
law
down
is
part of the
you
statute.
gotta have a terminal
Today we reached
illness
out to
to even
5
get good
lawmakers who voted
marijuana.
in favor of the measure. Only the Senate President's office got back to us saying it's reviewing the lawsuit, which could end up in the state's highest court. When asked about the publicity that he's getting from this lawsuit, Morgan blamed lawmakers for putting him back in front of the camera. He says he plans to add several plaintiffs to this case as early as next week. We're live in Orlando tonight. Michael Leparty, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
This is...
Well, you know, what do I got to say about that? Look at the ballot initiative before you sign it. And then, you know, I mean... I couldn't say that you should go write a better one, but this should not have been made a constitutional amendment because now you're talking about changing something.
Channel 9
that's in the
Eyewitness
Constitution.
News at 6.
It takes a lot more than a lawsuit. I don't think this is going anywhere. But we'll see. Legalized in Nevada. We're legalized in Massachusetts. Good luck buying weed in Massachusetts at the weed store. Maine. Haven't heard much from Maine, but probably the same story goes on there. So whenever you have a legalization, whether it's medical or recreational, you always get this slow motion rollout. It's sort of just kind of obvious that people are trying to divide up some kind of a, you know, this mythological pie chart of green economy money. You know, oh boy, now that the drug cartels aren't making these billions, everybody else can. No, the drug cartels made the billions because they did the work. You know, like if you're out there putting your hand out to try to get money off of the legalized marijuana, what work are you doing? You know, in Nevada, in the case of Nevada, they got these people trying to argue about who's going to drive the weed around. Who the fuck cares? Get your shit together and get the weed to the people. This video here is pretty stupid. I don't recommend it. This guy's telling you about, you know, basically weed's legal, but it ain't. And it's going to keep being like that. Every time you just turn around, someone's going to come up with some new rule or regulation that says, oh, but if we catch you with weed, game over. You know, like renting a car, or they're going to charge you an extra $200 and report you driving stoned to the police. First of all, driving stoned is not a thing. So stop talking about that, please. People were driving stoned before anything was ever legalized. This is not a new thing, and it's not a big deal. If it was a big deal, it would have been a big deal before, but it ain't. Even with people, okay, it's legal now, and people are more willing to report that they were smoking marijuana. Not after a car wreck. But the bottom line is you just got to talk to the police involved. Talk to one of those cops that have been on the beat for 20, 30 years. Ask them how many times one of those horrific car accidents, when they, you know, figured out what the cause was, it wasn't all those empty liquor bottles in the car of the guy that was driving. It was marijuana. It's just never, it's not a thing, man. So let's not make it a thing, and let's not let them make it a thing. Meanwhile, in Nevada, they're running out of weed. They just might run out of weed. And this is the first week of sales, by the way. Okay, this place is open from 10 a.m. to midnight, and the lines are nonstop. Just between Saturday and Tuesday, we're talking about $4 million in sales. All right, $1 million to the taxes. $1 million to the taxes. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. $1 million. It's like $250,000 a day just going to the tax. How can anyone look at that and not want to have that going on for their state? Probably just because they're cruel and unusual idiots. So the distributors, they didn't have enough. The governor stepped in and he said, hey, we need more. And he's also stepping in about this whole thing about how the alcohol regulators or whatever, the alcohol people are trying to be the ones to drive it around or whatever. So just let the people do what they want to do and need to do to get the right amount of supply to meet the demand. It seems like marijuana legalization and regulation has shown us exactly what stupid, poor, over-the-top government regulation can do to an industry. It's just unnecessary, all right? Because, first of all, you'd regulate something this cautiously if it was, like, really volatile and dangerous. Or something that's worth a lot of money that's real easy. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. So, I don't know. Nevada's moving right along, I guess. That's pretty much it. It's saying it's a slow news week, to say the least. The story I've been seeing popping up, maybe not real recent. Let's see, this one's back in January of 2016. In July, February 2017. So basically people are starting to write about the smell of weed. And I don't know. I mean, legalization, part of the normalization of marijuana, I guess, is people are going to smell weed. Is that a big deal? What is the big deal with that? I just don't understand what the big deal with that is. It's not like it's some kind of thing that's going to overwhelm you. But people seem to make a big deal out of it, and I just don't really get that. So we got Boston. When I read these articles, to me it's like, dude, this could have happened any time in history. People have always smoked weed, and now you're just finally writing about it. This one here, New York City is starting to smell like weed. Tracy Shabala. She's got more of a condescending edge, kind of like, hey guys, keep your smells to yourself. And it's like, just whatever. Look at this. This guy's smoking a cigarette. That's okay. I mean, it isn't okay. But, I mean, not even in New York City. It's almost impossible to just be walking around smoking cigarettes these days. Summertime in D.C. smells like weed everywhere, all the time. Maybe a bit of an exaggeration. I think sometimes what you get is people that don't smoke weed, and it's probably because they used to smoke weed, and for some reason now they can't. They're like, yo, I smell weed. Every time they smell anything that even comes close to smelling like weed, I smell weed. It's like, maybe you're just projecting that because you wish it was weed. Maybe you do smell weed a little bit more than anybody else can because you're wishing you could smoke it. You know, that's probably a big deal. I wouldn't know what that's like because I would refuse to live in a situation where there was something compelling me to not smoke weed. It's just not, I'm not having it. I don't even want to read these. It's getting to the point where it's like, just get over it, people. And if you remember, that's what the lawsuit in Nevada, Oklahoma, trying to say that the Colorado weed smell was just hurting their fucking property, property values so bad at their horse farms. You know, I love horses, but horse farms, they smell like shit. So the smell of weed is only going to improve the fucking smell of your shitty horse farm. Apparently, over there in Denver, the elevators smell like weed because there's so much weed. There's so much weed that the police still have to handle a lot of it. What? You know, that's the thing about legalizing marijuana. Unless you fucking get rid of prohibition or decriminalize it big time, there's still a lot of marijuana fucking getting seized by the police. And mainly it's because it's a valuable commodity, obviously. I mean, the police are talking about, oh yeah, we got every time you turn around, we got to process 86 items a week identified as marijuana. I mean, you can guess what these items range from. And I'm guessing that a lot of the times it's because somebody had too much weed and a lot of it was grow operations. Well, that's too bad, man. It's too bad that even though weed's legal in Colorado, to go to the store and buy it, there's still so many ways that you can go to jail for it. We even have the Cavaliers locker room smelling like weed. Whatever. Again, let's just take a little video break.
So you were in the locker room post-game, right?
Yes.
Excuse me, sir. Did you smell marijuana?
Is that a serious question in California? Because I had somebody walk up to the street and say hello to me the other day in San Francisco, and he had a roach. I'm not used to that. You know?
It's legal, brother.
There was a smell of marijuana in the Cavs locker room,
Okay.
but there are 2 doors to that locker room, and there were 3 times as much media there. There's
So it could be the media.
dudes hanging around the finals.
Could be.
To say.
All right.
I did smell marijuana, but I have no idea where it came from.
Are you hearing anything about this?
Dude, that guy back here looks really mad.
You know, because it was in California. By the way, it's legal in California, but ain't legal in the NBA. So I guess.
Oh.
You know that, but no one's
Yeah,
talking
that's
about it.
weird.
I don't think it was a big deal. It was just made us laugh, honestly.
What about LeBron James not going to the podium? Did you have an issue with that? Had they won, would he have gone to the podium?
Good question. I don't.
All right, I guess that's all they're going to say about the weed. Well, even if it ain't, I'm not going to watch that whole video just to parse it out for more talk about the weed. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about California. Of course, you're going to have these industries and these corporations that are still sticklers about marijuana. Obviously, the sports world, they think that they have some kind of like extra responsibility to be role models, and also athletes, they act like any kind of drug is performance enhancing or some shit. It's just ridiculous. All right, hold on. I don't know, my internet's been kind of shitty lately. But happy 4th of July, land of the free. More year-long bans for weed, more reasons to question NFL policy. So, 1-year suspension of Ravens tight end Darren Waller for substance abuse was raised several red flags, which is not a surprise. Red flags about Waller, of course, about the Ravens, who, according to the ESPN account, have had the most players suspended for various drug violations since 2010 than any other NFL team. However, Waller is also the 4th NFL player this offseason to be suspended for a year for substance abuse violations. All at least believed to be marijuana related. 2 days before Waller, ESPN reported that former Bill and Steelers Carlos Williams got a 1-year ban. Less than 2 weeks ago, it was former Brown and Steelers Justin Gilbert. Right after last regular season ended, it was the Cowboys' Randy Gregory. So I might have said earlier that 2 of these people was a year. It looks like 4 people were suspended for a whole year. 4 players added to the list that already includes Josh Gordon, Rolando McClain, and Sammy Lehill, and list from which the Steelers' Martavius Bryant just returned. At least 1 player each season since 2014, in fact, has been given that full year sentence. And let's be clear about NFL rules. You only get paid for the game you play. So whatever your contract says, you make X amount. Let's say you make $16 million a year or some shit. You're 16 games, so if you only play 10 of them, you only get 10 million. If you play 0 of them, you get no money. That's pretty fucking crazy. So that should be a big red flag. As much as this topic has been beaten into the ground already, it deserves to be beaten on again until some reasonable, sensible answer is found. And that's why I decided to go back to it, because this is just getting ridiculous, man. The NFL, time and time again, goes light on players who beat the shit out of their spouses. You remember the Jerry Rice video or whatever that was? Maybe? I don't know. There was a video of some football player beating the hell out of his old lady. Well, maybe he just punched her once, knocked her out, drug her by the hair out of the elevator. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he didn't get a whole year suspension. But anyway, in 2017, the country continued its gradual turn towards legalizing weed, and in the league, with debilitating, often chronic pain at its foundation, why are players still getting kicked out for an entire year, or indefinitely, or in practical terms, forever? By now, we should be way past they have almost all year to use without penalty argument, and the drug test is an IQ test argument, and he deserves a year just for being so dumb argument. All of that has to do with the drug testing. None of those, like, stupid innuendos. Let's look at them one by one. They have almost all year to use without penalty. That's saying that during the off season, you can smoke as much drugs as you want, because they only test you the one time before each game or some shit, or maybe it's just once before the season starts. Like, you have to do a test. The drug test is an IQ test, meaning that if you fail it, you're stupid because it's just for weed. You know, any other drug, you can easily just stop doing that drug for like 2 days and boom, you can pass the test. But with weed, you know, you're going to fail it if you smoke weed, period. Or, you know, the fact that you can somehow beat it, because with weed, you can figure ways around the test, you know, like, I don't know, you got the fake penises or some little thing that you drop in the pee and it neutralizes any THC testing. I'm not sure, but anyway, and then there's he deserves a year just for being so dumb. I don't know what that argument is, but it sounds again like, oh, well, drug tests are easy to pass, even if you do drugs, so you should get a year out. I mean, come on, man, this is somebody's fucking livelihood. All right, you might not always agree with the high salaries and the fucking contracts that these guys get, but these guys are risking their mental health every time they go out on that field. Let's not forget that. And why don't they deserve to use medical marijuana? More than half of these fucking teams are located in states where medical marijuana has been legal for a while. All right, but honestly, what's so smart about how the NFL is handling this? Some within the NFL, even some high up in the food chain, have been asking for a while if and how marijuana policy should be tweaked, fixed, or overhauled. What's going on in this offseason, though, should spur them to start asking different questions. Should get the people that they work for, the owners and the commissioner, Roger Goodall, to ask them, too. One of the biggest weapons the NFL wields, it's what they handed out when coaches and executives in the Saints Bountygate scandal in 2012. Mediate on that for a minute. Darren Waller and Justin Gilbert, the same punishment as Sean Payton and Greg Williams for nearly the same crime. So what they're saying is that you can do some serious shit, that's some off-color shit, some bad shit. And I mean, they're not even using the examples of, you know, domestic violence, where in some cases these guys have been known to beat their wives or girlfriends within a half an inch of their life, and it's like the second or third offense, and they're still only getting taken out for like 2 or 3 games. So when you're talking about this full year suspension, this is a fucking bell ringer. This is like a major big deal. 4 players right now just got this shit, and there's already 3 players coming off of it. One player that just got done being suspended This just ain't even. It's you do have a union, and they're not sitting on their hands on this. They have a proposal right here. Well, this is the NFL Players Association, which is former players, current players. It's an association of players. I don't really watch too much football. I'm a Steelers fan when they're doing good. But other than that, if they're not doing good, I don't really give a shit about football. But what I do care about is the players. Because these guys, like I said, man, they're putting their fucking life on the line. Believe it. People have walked off those fields a lot less than they walked on many times. I've seen games where people were taken off the field in conditions that didn't look like they really knew their name or what the fuck day it was after they got into whatever injury it was. But on a regular daily basis, man, you're talking about there's some players that go out there and take headshots 5 to 10, 15 times a game, Like, you got to be letting these people use medical marijuana. There's just really, if you're not, it's basically cruelty, unusual cruelty to a person that works for you. Roger Goodall, you old bag. Come on, man. What is the fucking holdup? The NFL, it's long been known that pretty much most people in the NFL smoke weed anyway, whether it's Goodall on down to the fucking dude that goes out and picks up your sweat rag off the field. Like, this is a fucking sport where people have been known to smoke weed pretty much since I can remember. I'm not that old. I mean, I'm not that young either. But stew on that for a minute. This is one of their biggest punishments that they can possibly give you. They give you a year out. Man, you think back in some of your players that you've thought of that's gotten suspended for some bullshit. I really don't. Nothing really comes to mind. Bountygate turned the league upside down for a while on several levels, and the repercussions will be felt for a while longer. But throwing a player out for a year is supposed to have the same deterrent effect. It's failing because the numbers are only going up. So when you see, it's almost like a civil disobedience kind of thing for maybe players that can afford to be sitting down for a whole year. And in some cases, this could be a permanent thing. I was reading the other day about another player who just got his third offense, and that could be it. Like, he might never be playing for the NFL again. Now, does that make any sense? There's players that have been known, they did some like assassination style hit that ended up injuring somebody permanently out of the game. And then players only got 2 or 3 game suspensions. I can't even think of a player that got a full year suspension for something that actually happened on the field. And Bountygate, as you know, was on the field. That was where people were just getting, you do some dirty hit on somebody and take them out of the fucking game and you got money, or, there was something to that. But the suspensions didn't, the suspensions made people think, shit, maybe we shouldn't do that. And yeah, you get caught even thinking about doing that, you're out, But it shouldn't be like that with medical marijuana or even fucking weed. It's just weed, man. What the fuck, NFL? You have ruined so many lives with your bullshit sport. There's countless guys that can't even put together a sentence because of all them hits. All right. Do they have a much bigger problem that throwing them out for a year isn't going to resolve? Or is this even a problem at all? See, that's another thing that doesn't get said enough, man. We're just talking about marijuana here. Why would you throw someone out for a year for it? Oh, it's because of the bad stigma that marijuana has. It has nothing to do with anything in the factual, real world. We're talking about people that has gotten, car crashes on drinking alcohol, beating their wives up. Alcohol is always related. All right, I don't know. NFL It's time for them to seriously consider the latter. Other leagues are not obsessing over this in this way, and it includes other sports leagues because at least 2 former NFL players who got long weed suspension, Will Hall, who sat 10 games last year, and Frank Alexander, who sat all of 2015 season, now play in the CFL, which does not even test for marijuana. I think I would go there. Everything that marijuana advocates connected to the NFL, says Eugene Monroe's, Nate Jackson's, and others have said has fallen on deaf ears. All the information available about pain management has led to no serious change. So there's that whole other thing going on where you're talking about, these head injuries especially, but just any injuries in general or any pains and, bruises. Your muscles are rebuilding all the time, constantly. And quite frankly, you don't want to go to the doctor and hear him say, well, we need to up your Vicodins or something, look at how many NFL players, famously so, have had to go to drug rehabilitation because of just Vicodins, your Brett Favre's and shit. I mean, just fucking Vicodins, man. Why? Because Vicodins are bad, highly addictive. And for pain management, I don't think Vicodins are really helping anybody because they don't do anything to help you get over what's causing the pain. They just numb the pain, basically. Whereas cannabis has other things that it does. And when these guys are when Eugene Monroe and the Nate Jacksons of the world, when they're talking about the efficacy of marijuana and cannabis, they're talking about a lot more than just it gives you the munchies after your chemo or, it's good for pain. A lot of people don't take that shit seriously, but that's what I use it for, and it's the best thing there is for pain, because guess what? The pain is fucking gone. And if it ain't, I can get it out of here just by smoking some weed, but usually pain management is not feeling the pain in the first place. There you go. When you're doing the Vicodin thing, you're waking up in pain because you're waking up jonesing for another hit of Vicodin, first and foremost, and then you got to worry about the actual pain. All right, and everybody who has said out loud or behind the scenes about preferring to see players light up than see them get drunk or do something truly dangerous gets tuned out. Gordon's original suspension back in 2014 was based partly on a DUI arrest, as was Alden Smith's 2015 ban, which has not been lifted yet. The Packers' LaTroy Guion was arrested last month and charged with a DUI. So, I mean, I hate to break it to you, NFL and mom and dad and the government and the church leaders and the principals at schools, but when somebody, you can't mandate something, you can't make penalties in the place where they have to go to do something. Like, you got to go to the football and make a living playing football. But they're saying, if you do these bad things, then we're going to suspend you. You're still going to do those bad things, I think. Maybe. I don't know. It just depends on the person, When it comes to cannabis, though, it doesn't even matter, dude. So the contradictory slaps on the wrist for far more heinous offenses can be recited by heart by now. It was Ray Rice. I'm sorry, I might have said Jerry Rice earlier. Big mistake, big difference. Ray Rice, Josh Brown, Greg Hardy, the 1 or 2 or 4 game hits for drunk driving, carrying guns, using performance enhancers, and being recklessly dangerous on the field. And doesn't anybody want to talk about the elephant in the room, the domestic violence, all right, that leads to the O.J. Simpsoning of the world? I don't know. Just whatever, man. In the midst of it all, 4 players in one season run off for a full year over marijuana. And this is in the off season. It's ain't even like these guys are at football practice or even right before the game. They're out in the parking lot toking up, doing dabs and shit. This ain't even that. This is the off season. Boom, got hit with the test because, we're getting ready to do conditioning for fucking getting the lineups and shit for let's face it, preseason. And whatever, man. The NFL needs to get the fuck on board here. This shit's getting old. All right, guys, last thing going on is all y'all with your iPhones out there. Old Steve Jobs and old Woz, man, they used to smoke them motherfucking doobies, baby. I mean, whenever you read about a famous person and their marijuana use, the funny part about it is you always get this censored shit, this watered down version. And that's fine. You know, I appreciate the fact that they even said that they smoked even one joint. And I did look into Bill Gates, and apparently he says he's probably smoked about a handful of joints in his whole life. And by handful, he means like 5. So I didn't really ever take Bill Gates as kind of like the stoner type guy. He was more of the IBM business machine type dude. He seemed very IBM compatible as far as nerds go. Whereas I always looked at Steve Jobs as a little bit more of a goofy, like, trippy dude that you met at the fucking party that, you know, was on acid, but everybody else was drunk. And he was talking your ear off for an hour about how cool shit can be. But that's probably not how he was. But anyway, he was a good guy, I guess. His name kind of sucks because Steve Jobs. That would be nice if Steve Jobs had some jobs for people in America, but by and large, just sweatshop jobs overseas. And to make an iPhone or an iPad or anything else that you got from Steve Jobs, you had to get a lot of rare earth materials and do a lot of like crazy micro, pollution. I guess you couldn't have a factory to build iPhones over here because of the amount of pollution that wouldn't even be allowed here. So Steve Jobs, let's say it's hardly a secret that he used to indulge in some recreational drug use back in the day. Indeed, Jobs once said that taking LSD was one of the 2 or 3 most important things he ever did in his life. A bold statement to be sure, but Jobs credits his LSD experiences with opening up his mind and enabling him to see the world in a different light. I remember a story where Steve Jobs was like encourages coders to be on LSD and take long LSD breaks when they needed to, because they were working like 3-4 days at a time and then sleeping for 2 days. So maybe they were on LSD a lot more than we're getting reports of. Who knows? All right, and now, thanks to recently released documents from the Department of Defense, we have a little bit more information about Jobs' proclivity for those eye-opening drugs he unabashedly credits for helping spark the creative within. Documents in question were handed over to Wired pursuant to Freedom of Information Act request, and there are a few interesting talking points. It tells you how come they had to get this background check and clearance check and all this shit. All right, so with respect to his drug use, Jobs explained that he used LSD from 1972 to 1974. Throughout that period of time, I used LSD approximately 10 to 15 times, Jobs said. I would ingest the LSD on a sugar cube or in hard form of gelatin. I would usually take LSD when I was by myself. I have no words to explain the effect of the LSD had on me, although I can say it was a positive, life-changing experience for me, and I'm glad I went through that experience. Check. But LSD wasn't the only drug that Jobs had an affinity for way back when. It was the 70s, after all. Specifically, Jobs was also no stranger to smoking both marijuana and hashish, explaining that he used to smoke it with friends and even used to eat pot brownies. During the course of his DOD interview, Jobs said that the last time he got high was 1977. See, there's that weird editing shit. we know that there's no fucking way he stopped getting high in 1977. But anyway, explaining the impetus behind his marijuana usage, Jobs said that it helped him relax and made him more creative. All told, Jobs said he used drugs anywhere from once a week to once a month during that time period. Okay. Kind of interesting. I don't know. Steve Jobs. I don't know, he basically, I think he smoked weed a lot more than what this is telling us. That's all I'm going to say. Seemed to be the kind of guy that pretty much smoked weed every day. I'm going to just speculate. So, Jeff Sessions, bad people that smoke weed, are you saying that back in 1977, Steve Jobs was not a good person? Now, Jeff Sessions don't really probably even have a fucking iPhone. He probably has an iBible or something. But anyway, Sessions, you should look into it because Steve Jobs was a good person in 1977. Pretty sure he was a pretty good person for the most part until he died. That's going to do it for this weekly podcast. Please keep a lookout for videos. They might be coming more frequently as the summer winds down here. I don't know what to do about the news, to tell you the truth, but as you can see, it's the same kind of shit as it always is when there's not really when there's not a bunch of people trying to legalize marijuana. What you get is just a whole bunch of studies, and you get propaganda. You get propaganda from our side, and you get propaganda from the Reefer Madness side. And I guess my job has been pretty much for the last year almost is to stop this Reefer Madness bullshit in its tracks and further spread our message that the more you study marijuana / cannabis / whatever, THC, then the less evidence you have for any of these arguments talking about marijuana, cannabis, THC, concentrated or regular, whatever. All the arguments that say this stuff is bad, all the arguments that say it's dangerous, all the arguments that say it's a gateway to heroin, you start to see that all that is bullshit. I'm just a regular person. I'm not a news person. I'm not getting paid by anybody to do this shit. I'm not a spokesman for anybody. I do some reporting on legalization movements from time to time. And in Michigan, we have My Legalize. And I should be about to do my interview, hopefully within a week or so at the most, because to me, I feel like these questions that I have for them are very important. I got these questions from you. I got these questions from myself. And I get these questions when I'm circulating their petitions. And I have some concerns about these questions. And I have some concerns about Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol and their involvement in the campaign, and how I feel like there's negative and positive aspects of their involvement. So far, I've seen both play out just like I predicted I would, and I just kind of want to get the take from somebody that's directly from My Legalize. So you can understand that. I've done a lot of coverage for My Legalize. If you look at my body of work, there hasn't been too many weeks that went by where I didn't do some kind of update. And that's because something has been happening ever since I started my channel last August. So My Legalize has been steadily, there's been things going on. So as it happens, I've reported on it. That doesn't mean I work for them. I don't work for My Legalize. I'm not on a My Legalize board of any kind. I don't take any money at all. I don't know why somebody like asked me how much does My Legalize pay me. I don't even understand what the fuck the question even is. Like, why would My Legalize pay me? If they were paying me, then I would be doing a lot more videos for one, and it would be a lot more positive than the ones I've done, I think. I think I would do a pretty honest critique when I'm critiquing My Legalizes situations. Even dating back to when they got the 180-day thing. I mean, I'm not just somebody that is going to, like, fluff something up if it's bullshit, guys. Come on. If you if you watch my body of work or any of the videos I made about legalized medical marijuana states, you'll know that I'm not on board with any of this bullshit. And like I just said today about Colorado, well, you got Colorado. Big fucking deal. They're legal, but what? People are still going to jail for weed crimes. People are still losing their weed for weed crimes, apparently, because at the Denver police station, they have 60 some odd items a week coming in, their weed, their marijuana or whatever. And I mean, this weed war isn't over yet. It doesn't matter if all 50 states had legal, regulated marijuana. There's still a war to be fought. And I'm going to be there talking about it every fucking step of the way. Not as a reporter, but I'm reporting things maybe. But as really just a commentator, I'm just somebody that's like you that has some kind of knowledge about something. And I'm just trying to fucking like be the voice of people that are like the reasonable people that you are actually dealing with, you know. I would say I'm one of the activists, but I don't even consider myself an activist anymore. I'm just somebody that's voicing like what the people want to say about this shit. And when you look at My Legalize, yeah, there's some issues that need to be addressed. And that's it, guys. Catch me again. I will try to do weekly clips for sure, if nothing else. But yeah, there is shit going on, and there always will be something to make a clip about. So keep an eye out for me. Have a good one.